What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about a few things. Firstly, something that was added to ISO-8 after it launched that you may not have noticed. And more importantly, a part of one of the ISO-8 class descriptions that is a flat-out lie. We're also going to talk about synergy ISO-8 teams, or what I like to call special teams. I'll explain more about that when we get to it. But yeah, we're going to be talking a bunch of stuff about ISO-8, so let's get into it. All right, so we're talking about ISO-8, and there are several things that I wanted to bring up. My first video on how to choose the best class for a character, the ISO-8 class selection guide, I stand by that video, and it covers a lot, and I definitely recommend, if you're still unsure who to give what class, definitely go check out that video. Also, I have an infographic in the works that's going to have my recommendations for every single character for ISO-8. It's going to have a recommendation for them as a solo character, and it's going to have a recommendation for their class when they're on their synergy team, because often those are different. If you want access to that information ahead of time, you can sign up via my Patreon. Just the $5 tier is fine. I'll put a link to that in the video description below, but the spreadsheet version of that is done. So patrons do have early access to that. But yeah, again, in a couple days, I'm going to make the infographic. Everyone will get it for free. So don't worry, you do not have to contribute anything. But if you want to support the cause, you definitely can. Again, link will be in the video description below. Having said that, I want to talk a little bit about ISO-8. So firstly, I discovered the night after ISO-8 launched that there was an extra bonus attached to Skirmisher that was part of the code the entire time, but it wasn't part of the in-game description for the class, and they added it in the very next day. So if you've been really studying ISO-8 since then, you may already know this, but for anyone who just kind of looked at it the first day and hasn't paid as much attention, they added in this line, which is specifically for Skirmisher. At level 5, now characters gain 50% focus. And that's a big deal. When evaluating who should be a skirmisher, we were mainly looking at characters that are fast or characters that get called for a bunch of assists. However, now certain characters like controllers are really good options for skirmisher. In particular, Toad is a great example. Some people have difficulty in war with Toad because his focus just isn't quite good enough a lot of times to overcome the really high resistance of Fury Shield teams. But if he's a skirmisher and he gets 50% extra focus, he's not going to have those problems anymore. So if you didn't catch that that was there, I did want to bring that up. But that is not the lie. I imagine that you clicked on this video because you were wondering, what are they lying to us about? Well, I'm always happy to expose when people are lying, so here we go. This line right here, on primary hit, apply vulnerable to primary target, gain 10% max health. These effects can also occur on assist and counterattacks. That is a lie. It says that at level 1, it says that at level 3, and it says that at level 5, and it is a lie the entire time. It is a partial truth in that these effects absolutely 100% can occur on assists. However, you will never apply vulnerable on a counterattack. It will not happen. It cannot happen. There are multiple types of counterattacks. There are retaliation counters, which is something like the reflect damage from Colossus, and then there are proper counterattacks, which often are triggered by a counterattack buff, but sometimes something like Killmonger just has high counterattack chance. But again, none of these will apply vulnerable from Skirmisher. So I guess I should clarify, if a character is a Raider and they counterattack and they get a crit, a Raider can, but that's just because Raider always applies vulnerable on crit. That's a separate thing. But specifically looking at Skirmisher here, it says it can occur on counterattacks. It cannot. Don't bother trying. It's not a focus versus resistance thing. It's just not coded to do that. Period. End of story. So hopefully this is something they fix, whether they fix the description or they fix the function. But yeah, moving on. I also did want to clarify something about Striker. A lot of people have been wondering what exactly is the ISO bonus attack. Well, I got tired of waiting for them to tell us what it was, and I went and I looked in the code, and sure enough, an ISO bonus attack is the same attack reference for an assist and a counterattack. So whatever a character normally does on their assist and or their counterattack is what they will do on an ISO bonus attack. That said, there is nowhere in the game where you can see what an assist and a counter does. That's interesting because some assists and counters do things that you would not expect them to do. So I'm going to show you a couple instances of assists and counters that do something completely different than the basic attack, and there's absolutely no way for you to know other than checking a third-party site. And by the way, assists and counters scale with a character's basic attack. So If you have someone as a striker and you are trying to use a lot of their bonus attacks, it is worth it to upgrade their basic, because you'll see here, the assist and counter improves as the basic improves. They are tied to each other. But, so, Venom's basic, attack primer for 230% damage, apply bleed for 1 turn, flip 2 positive effects to negative effects, and it cannot be dodged. So you would assume that it's going to do the same thing for the assist and counter. That is not the case. In reality, firstly, his assist and counter can be dodged. In addition, his basic can flip 2 positive effects to negative effects. For no reason at all, his assist and counter can flip 3 positive effects to negative effects. Now that does mean that Venom is actually very, very good as a striker, because if he gets that bonus attack, his normal basic will apply a bleed, his assist and counter will apply a bleed, and then he can flip up to 5 positive effects between the 2 attacks, so he can actually basic someone once and put 7 bleeds on them, which is of course ridiculous, but it's also kind of awesome. One other weird one that I did want to show you is Aim Assaulter. Aim Assaulter, attack primary target for 160% damage, and guaranteed apply bleed for 2 turns. So you'd assume, okay, the assist and counter is probably gonna apply bleed for 2 turns, something like that. No, the assist and counter is a 50% chance to apply bleed for 3 turns. Why 3? I don't know. Why does it go from a guaranteed bleed to a 50% chance? I don't know. But things to look for specifically are things that apply debuffs and or things that apply positive effects, because those are usually completely arbitrary. When it comes to buffs and debuffs, check, but you can assume no splash damage, no chains, no ability generation. That's currently what you're working with. All right, and the last thing that I wanted to mention are ISO-8 special teams. Basically what I mean by that is this. There are certain teams that individual members should be a certain class, because that is what's going to give that character the most benefit. However, if you have the entire team composed with certain classes, you can bring out really cool and interesting added bonuses or special effects by using a specialty class, even if the class isn't necessarily the best for 1 or 2 of the individual members. A perfect example is what I'm about to show you with my Young Avengers. You'll notice that I have Ms. Marvel as a skirmisher and everyone else as a striker. And I will explain why in just a sec, but what makes this, in my opinion, a special team is because a few of these characters otherwise would rather be a different class. Case in point, Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl has an amazing health bar. She does a ton of healing constantly. So no question, the best value out of Squirrel Girl is to have her as a healer. However, there is a fun thing you can do when you have Ms. Marvel, Skirmisher, and everyone else Striker, and that is due to the interaction with Skirmisher and Striker specifically. If the assist applies a vulnerable from the Skirmisher, the Striker will then, on that same turn, do an ISO-8 bonus attack. So if you have Skirmisher, Ms. Marvel, and 4 Strikers, every single one of their turns, except for Ms. Marvel's, is going to be a triple hit, which is pretty cool, so I'll show you that. Alright, so you'll see here, I'm going to open up, we'll go after Hawkeye, and I'll slow it down so you can see it here. There's an attack. There's the assist, which is going to put vulnerable. And then there's the ISO-8 bonus attack for the triple hit. Hopefully we get the dispel, but... Alright, so there's the assist. That was a counter. There's the vulnerable. There's the ISO bonus for the triple hit. So we'll do it again, and of course it doesn't have to be on a basic. So here is the America Chavez special. Here's the assist. And that's going to apply the vulnerable as soon as he's done. There's the vulnerable, and there's the bonus attack. So now Hulk actually has a defense down after he just dropped below 50%. So he should be clear of debuffs, because he does that when he drops below 50%. But because the ISO bonus attack followed up after, it got a defense down on him. We can actually just take him out right here. So Hulk, go away. And then there's the assist on Captain America. That's going to put the vulnerable. There's the triple hit. And, I mean, you don't need me to tell you. Just getting a triple hit on every single turn. I'll speed it up because you've seen it in slow-mo now. So now just watch what kind of damage these guys can put out. So, yeah, the triple taps, just very, very powerful. The Young Avengers just love triple tapping people, and yeah, it's great damage, especially when you're putting a vulnerable on them anyway. So I'll show you one other specialty team that I really like playing around with, and it is the all-healer Inhumans. And I'll explain why that works really well in a sec, but a lot of these characters on their own, you don't want them as a healer for obvious reasons. In fact, Crystal, Quake, and Yo-Yo are three of the best raiders in the game. They all make amazing raiders, and they put down so much more damage, so many more vulnerables. Like, hands down, these characters should be raider. It's just so good for them. But if you put the entire team as healer, you can take a lot of advantage of the Yo-Yo passive. So if they're all healer, as soon as someone drops below 50%, they get that defense up, but because they're presumably the lowest health ally, they're going to get tons and tons of healing and regen, which will push them above 50%. And then they can absorb another hit, which will drop them below 50%, which will again give them defense up. And because Yo-Yo is going to be running interference the entire time, applying offense down, you're basically going to have defense up and offense down going for you the entire match. All right, so obviously they all spawn with defense up, which is nice. And then that was offense down, so we got some good resist there. Unfortunately, all of their defense ups are going to get flipped. All right, so actually Quake was able to hang on to hers, but already we got a regen over to Karnak here. So Quake has defense up, so I don't mind her eating some counters there. It did get dispelled by Proxima, but so there was the Crystal passive, and you can see she gets the defense up back. She's pretty low, but now she's going to get a lot of the healing. So yeah, Quake dangerously low. Let's see if these heals are going to be enough. I don't love the prospect of using her big AoE with offense down, but I do want to start putting some damage down, so I think we're going to go for it. And she does dodge that counter, but then she eats those two, but then her passive kicks in. He's offensed up for this, so let's blast him. But so Quake is slowed, so if anything hits Quake, this is gonna take her out, which is unfortunate, but yeah, they just happen to focus the crap out of her there, but that's okay. So yeah, Crystal got a nice big heal there. She is gonna eat a couple counters from this, but because of the defense up, she's doing just fine. So again, the heals are going to Crystal now. And every time they're taking a turn, they are throwing a heal over to Crystal. So Karnak needs to get put above 50%. He's dangerously low. These heals are not quite bringing her above 50%, but part of the reason that they're having a bit of trouble here is because everything that this team does is AoE, or just tons of counterattacks. But yeah, basically they just keep hitting clumps of people. So that flip isn't too bad. It does put some bleeds, but there's that basic. There we go. Now the heals are really gonna help, and they're gonna start getting people above 50% again. So there were those evades. Nice. Okay, she gets dropped a little bit low, but ultimately I think it's gonna work out. Just keep hitting Thanos here, and there you have it. So you didn't actually get to see them dropping low and then back above 50% as much in this match, but you got to see it some, and it allowed them to overcome the Black Order, and I do not think they would have been able to pull that off if they were Raider. While they would have done the extra damage, I think they would have simply died too quickly. But alright, so yeah, we covered a lot of stuff in this video. In addition to Skirmisher, as well as an outright lie in the Skirmisher description, talked a little bit about how Striker works, because some people are confused about that ISO bonus attack. Talked about special teams and what exactly that means, and showed you guys some examples of that as well. But I've blabbered on long enough, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys very much for checking out this video. A couple things to mention. Anyone who's welcome to join my Discord server, which is discord.gg/Khasino. We got blitz predictions, infographics, videos, data mines, content creator Q&A, and more. And of course, this is where I'm hanging out and chatting when I'm not on stream or making a video. And also, the daily Twitch streams are back. I'm sure you may have noticed the Twitch chat over to the side of this video every single day at 1 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/Khasino. Anyone is welcome to stop by. We do lots of giveaways and all sorts of other goofy, fun stuff, live testing of stuff, looking in the code. You never know. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you guys real soon. Until then, peace!